Hi everyone, Kyle here from Wide Awake PH, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about the Hero S01 hand grinder. The hand grinder market has exploded in popularity and in size in the past years. Especially with the help of the pandemic, I think a lot of us got into homebrewing at this time. And now, so many brands come to mind when, for example, you're a newbie getting into the hobby and wow, there's just so many choices out there now. And that's fun. But it can be overwhelming, right? With names such as Kinu, Comandante, Timimor, 1Z Presso, with so many offerings at multiple price points, right? You have grinders that are 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, 12,000, 15, 18,000 pesos. That if you're a newbie in today's market, I think it would be very overwhelming to see and explore all these choices, look at all these features of these grinders, and decide which ones do I need, which ones do I don't. And also, it might be so overwhelming that you'd end up buying something expensive, but you're not even sure if you're gonna use it every single day. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about one of my favorite budget hand grinders, the Hero S01, which retails for around 2,000 to 2,200 pesos in today's market. And we'll go over why I think it should be most people's first hand grinder. So the biggest reason why I really recommend people who are new to coffee, I recommend them to look into the Hero S01 is because it's so affordable and accessible. You can buy a grinder like this for around 2,000 pesos from Wide Awake or from the Hero store, official Hero PH store on Shopee for around 2,190 pesos and get yourself this thing. And it's important to stress that this quality you get for 2,000 to 2,200 pesos is amazing, and it's really a perfect entry because if you can imagine, it's so easy to spend on coffee. You're spending on equipment, you're spending on grinders, you're spending on kettles, you're spending on pour over devices, you're spending on beans. So for me, if you're looking into getting into this hobby for the first time, I recommend getting a basic grinder like this, getting a good pour over device, something you like, and a good kettle. That's it. Get a scale, of course, but that's it. Splurge on the beans. Use these equipments to taste and see if this ritual, this morning ritual of grinding coffee every day, brewing for yourself or your family every day is something for you before you spend the big bucks on the equipment. Building on my first point of affordability, the 2,000 pesos you spend on the Hero S01 goes such a long way because I feel or I think that you're not really getting any compromises with regards to performance. So yes, you do get an all plastic body, which we will touch on later, but the internals of this thing is amazing. You have a stainless steel axle, you have dual ball bearings, you have a stainless steel burr set that's 38 millimeters in size. You have a good grind scratch mechanism that doesn't squeak and it's not irritating to use. And you have a grind size indicator and a grind size adjustment mechanism that sounds good and pleasing to use. And I'm telling you, I'm so envious of you today because when I was getting into the hobby around 5 or 6 years ago, the only thing you could buy at this price point is a Porlex Mini or a Hario Skirton. And let me tell you, it's so hard to make good coffee with those things. But for you today, at 2,000 bucks, man, this is a steal. Yeah, so let's open this grinder up so you can see the internals and see what I mean when I'm talking about performance. So let's go. So now we're inside. You can see we have a stainless steel axle. We have a solid 38mm, nice and sharp stainless steel burr set. And if you notice, this assembly was so simple, so easy. And also, if you refer to our other videos, the 1Z Presso, the Kinu M47, you'll notice that the internals kind of look the same. So, for reference, again, this is 2,000 pesos, whereas the 1Z Presso is around 8,000, 8,500 pesos, and then the Kinu is even more expensive, around 15 to 18,000 pesos. Sorry. So, what I'm trying to say is, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you go for this kind of grinder. So I can already hear you asking, would I recommend the Hero S01 over the Timimor C2? So, for those of you who are new to coffee, the Timimor C2 is the benchmark for an affordable hand grinder. This grinder is awesome. It really set the pace for what you can achieve in a hand grinder at such an affordable price. So, for me, in terms of just grinds performance, I would say yes, I recommend the Hero S01 over the Timimor C2. In terms of grind quality, for me, they make the same filter coffee. The coffee tastes the same because the burr set is the same. And the big difference really is in the grinds adjustment. You have more granularity and more feedback with this grinder because each adjustment has a little bit more precision, more fine-tuning. In real terms, one click here is around 2 clicks in this grinder. That means you have more resolution when it comes to you making a grind size adjustment. The last point as to why I really recommend getting this for your first grinder is because I think it's the perfect first grinder, even in terms of having an upgrade path in mind. What do I mean by this? Okay, so this thing weighs 287 grams, whereas the Timimor C2 weighs 470 grams. Alright? To put this in perspective, when you upgrade, you will eventually buy something that looks like this. It's a tank. It's ginormous, and it's heavy, and it's cumbersome to bring around. So, if you're already gonna get a first grinder, why not get this instead? It's lightweight, it's made of plastic, meaning it's durable, it will not dent when you carry it in a backpack or in your office bag or your travel bag. It's lightweight. And I think it's the perfect companion to something like this, right? So you have a grinder for home use and you have a grinder for traveling. That's super easy to bring along. So I think in terms of an upgrade path, this really makes sense and you can use it for more purposes for a longer period of time. Okay, so how about grinds quality? What kind of coffee can you expect from a grinder like this? And honestly, for me, I've been using this every day for a couple of weeks before doing this review. It makes a very competent brew. Like, it's not the most clear coffee, it's not the most sweet coffee, but you get all the flavor notes that's in the bag. Right? You get good texture, you get a pretty good clarity. It's not excellent by any means, but for the price you pay, isn't that the most important thing? That you get to taste all the notes in the bag, provided that the roaster knows what they're talking about with regards to the flavor notes. And that means for the affordable price of 2,000 to 2,200 pesos, you get a grinder that you can use to explore the world of coffee. And I think that's really good value. But when it comes to comparing the grinder to the other grinders I've reviewed, well, of course, it loses in terms of sweetness and clarity to the Kinu. It loses a lot in terms of clarity from the 1Z Presso that I reviewed. But, interestingly, it beats the Niche Zero for filter coffee. Like, I vastly prefer the grinds I get on this grinder compared to the Niche. The Niche sucks for filter coffee. And you bet we'll touch on that in a long-term review video on the Niche we'll do next time. So let's get into the drawbacks of the Hero S01. And there are a few. So one would be simply the size of the knob, this grip knob. It's too small, well, for me and for my medium-sized hands. So, grinding a lot of coffee is not the most comfortable experience because it's small. So for me, that's a win for something like the Timimor C2, which has a better sized knob. But of course, that's kind of a personal preference. Another issue that I see is some customers have come back to me and say that they over tightened the grind's catch cup. So meaning, even once they've gotten to the end, they've like over tightened it, and they're having problems unscrewing it. So that's something to be aware of. Oh yeah, so another issue for you might be that it's plastic. So the grind stabilizer is made of plastic, and the entire body itself is made of plastic. Okay, so for me, it's not so much of a drawback because, again, as I mentioned, it doesn't dent. So like when you drop it, it won't dent, unlike the C2. If you drop it the wrong way and you dent the body, then you can't screw the grind's catch in anymore. So there's that. But because it's plastic, it doesn't feel as premium in the hand compared to the Timimor C2. So that's important to note, and that's completely subjective. So there's that. Yeah, and as much as I like this grinder because I think it's very, very well made, well designed, well thought of, because of the way it's built, it can feel like a toy, right? So when you're grinding like this, it feels a little cheap in the hand because it's lightweight. It's not a solid feeling, especially when we're comparing it to something like this, which I use almost every day. Like grinding with a higher end grinder like this, or the 1Z Presso I reviewed before, is definitely a more luxurious feeling. And what do I mean by that? It means because it's made of all steel, when you're grinding with the grinder, there's not as much shock or vibration that transfers back to your hand and to your body. So it just feels very smooth, right? Very luxurious. Whereas with cheaper grinders like this, you bet you can feel the teeth of the grinder gnawing on those beans, and the shock and the vibration transfers back to your body. But again, for the price, it's a reasonable experience. It's not so bad. And honestly, you're grinding 13 grams for 40 seconds, it's not so bad. So while I vastly prefer the Hero S01 to the Timimor C2, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I love both products. To me, it's so important to have these great, competent coffee grinders in the market at affordable price points that are super accessible, by the way. You can buy them over the internet, click of a button. Because with this, you get to explore this wonderful and rich world of coffee. And for me, the more people that gets into this hobby because of these grinders, because of the affordability and the accessibility of them, then our industry is going to grow. It's going to become bigger, more rich, more diverse, and ultimately, that's a win for everyone. It's a win for the customers, it's a win for the coffee roasters, it's a win for our farmers. And again, products like this really make me happy, and it's so important to continuously have good budget options in the market. If there's any budget grinder out there that you know of and will perform better than these two, please tell me and I will buy it right away. And you bet we will have a review on that here on this channel. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.